Yeah, so here we are in the over-under 2.5 goal market for a match between Cittadella and Frosinone. Excuse the pronunciation. It's an Italian Serie B playoff match, much like we have in the UK. And I mean, the odds suggested it would be an under, but I just thought it would be it's the first leg. I thought it would be a tight game between them, because of what's at stake. It has begun to open up in the last few minutes, but I'm still hanging in there because it's kind of as I thought it would be. As I say, you can always model the game in your head and decide what what you're expecting to happen, and if that kind of sticks to the script, then you should sort of stick to your guns. So it's a scrappy, kind of tight, not particularly high class game of football, as you might expect from Italian second division. Having said that, goal's gone in, so that's it was a very scrappy goal, but that's fine. We'll hang in there, because I don't as I said, it was opening up, but I'm not convinced that it's necessarily going to be an over. So we'll see what happens after this goal. If it becomes a much more open game, we may have to cut our losses. But yeah, it's anyway. So that's who's playing. Cittadella Frosinone, Serie B. You probably never heard of them, but one of these days I was planning to go on a sort of retirement tour of all the stadiums of teams that had helped me scrape a living over the years. And I'm not sure if this would be my first port of call. I'm looking at the ground. Looks pretty empty on the screen that I can see, but it's yeah, I think maybe places like Munich, Madrid, Barcelona, Huddersfield, all those sort of places would probably come before here. And yeah, so you can see there, it's kind of simple ground, sort of bleachers, not many people around, but it's it's quite a crucial game. It just shows. Well, look there. Oh, I had a bit of a picture of quite a full stand. There's lots of rolling around going on. Historically, between these teams, it's been sort of 1-1s, 2-1s, so I mean, it could go either way. But I'm not too concerned about it at the moment. It's a pity the goal came. It's just a scrappy corner into the area, and somebody just knocked it in. So anyway, I'll keep checking back as the game progresses, and maybe we can at least show how sometimes it's worth staying in. At the moment, to be sort of scratch, I've got to obviously wait for this price to return to about 1.6. So this has got to start. It might stay level for a few minutes, then start to drop. You sort of get a feel for when that'll be. It'll be into the second half, I suspect. But I'll keep monitoring. I'll be back shortly. Thanks. So we're in the 34th minute odd, and it's opened up again now for a period with, I mean, Frosinone 1-0 up, sitting on their lead, really breaking on Cittadella, whose defence is appalling. They could have had another couple of goals actually by now, which is worrying. But it's not from. I wouldn't say it's from. Frosinone aren't pushing forward enough to worry me at the moment. But if they do start to decide to actually play some football again, I'm not banking on them not getting another goal. But at the moment, it seems they're reasonably happy to stay back. While the score's 1-0, and they'll have the second leg at home, and no doubt have a very good chance of. Well, they will have a very good chance of going through. In fact, it's got so bad for Cittadella. They were still 5-1 to win, even after going a goal down. And I know they've been poor at home. I know Frosinone have been quite solid, and from what I can see on the pitch, it's just I wouldn't have any confidence at all in Cittadella. So I've just put a small. I would never probably bet on this match in the match odds market for full stakes during the main season, the main European leagues, but just to try and make just to add a small position to what I've already got in the over/under markets. I laid Cittadella at 6.4 because they just don't look like, even with Frosinone sitting back and they've got more of the ball, they just don't look like penetrating really, and they look vulnerable in the break. So I've got another position here of potential profit on the draw and Frosinone, so in the match odds market. So and as I say, I probably wouldn't even be in this market with the major leagues. I don't know this league, so I'd never be in here for big stakes, but it's just in keeping with the test stakes that I have in the over/under market. So here we go. So now we're I can't remember. You have to look in the video where I was when that goal went in, but I'm sure I think shortly afterwards. I know I was around the sort of 35-40 pound liability mark. We're down to 15 now. So by half time, it could be looking a lot better. And as I say, you can then take a view of what you'd like to do. They've had a shot on target each, and but for me, it's kind of almost irrelevant. It's just a sort of scrappy game with poor quality teams. It's just the defensive display by Cittadella that's worrying me a bit at the moment. Should the current leaders decide to play a bit more football? Okay, so I'll be back again shortly. So. Cittadella have actually equalised, so now I was hoping to make it to half time. I had a couple of minutes left, and I felt I'd probably make it, but Cittadella, God, I can't remember if it was a corner now or anyway, the ball came into the box and it was just walloped and had a double deflection. It was going well wide, double deflection, and into the net. So got to make a decision now, really. Obviously suddenly where I was fairly confident about the game be getting scratch at least, I have not got the same level of confidence now because I've got a whole half of football to go, and it's kind of all to play for, as it were. In the match odds market, I've got a sort of potential profit there still, although it's more precarious now because it is a draw, and I have this liability on Cittadella. So not the best position. That goal kind of changed everything. Whereas at half time, I would have been, in profit on in this market, and probably approaching scratch certainly in the over/under market. So it's just a case of deciding, what I reset my head really and decide what I'm going to do. It's probably will be sensible to come out of the over/under market, because certainly it's changing the way Cittadella are playing at the moment. It's only a minute or two to go, but I would then need to decide. The match odds market might be the one to stay in, so I might come out of this 0.25 for I might come out when it just drops below 50, or if I think I can stay in for longer, and then recoup some of my profit, albeit at the risk of a bigger liability in the match odds market. So I'll pause it and come back with my decision. Okay, cheers. The second half is going to resume quite shortly, but what I tend to do in the first half is watch the game for a period of time. It varies, and then decide whether or not I'm going to go in. If you're worried about a goal going in the second half in the first minute or two, it can be an idea to take your profit or liability equally across the unders and overs, and do the same again. Assess the game for 5 or 10 minutes before making a decision as to whether or not you want to stay out of the game or go back in. And you know, especially if you're in a sort of quite precarious position as we are now, with it's 1-1, another freak goal. There've been 2 bad goals, but another goal would give me that full liability, and I've got the option of taking just about half that. So that's something that in this scenario I might do. I doubt these teams will be happy with 1-1 just yet, but there might come a period later in the game where they don't want to risk too much. So we'll just let the second half begin, and don't be surprised if both these under/over options are red. Okay, back shortly. I decided at half time to equalise my loss. It's end-to-end stuff at the moment. I mean, it's still scrappy. The skill level is low. We've had 2 terrible goals. I mean, the game probably maybe deserved 1, but it's neither goal should have gone in really. And but they're going for it, and I wouldn't, you know, put it past there being a 3rd terrible goal. So I decided to come out of it, and my only decision now is to whether or not come out of the match odds bet. And actually, that's not true, because as this over 2.5 goals increases, you know, if I find in the last 10 minutes that both teams are still going for it, you know, they don't seem to be happy with 1-1, I may put some money on the overs if it's cheap to do so, to try and eliminate that £52 liability. So yeah, as I was saying, other than that, I've got to go to the match odds market and see if I want to keep that 270 liability on Cittadella, who are kind of, I suppose, they're just about on top at the moment. And I'll just hang in here a little bit longer to see how Frosinone defend and whether Cittadella find a bit more penetration. I'll be back shortly. I'm now concentrating on my match odds market, my over 2.5s. I've got a loss of 52. The problem what I'm feeling now is that Cittadella are well on top. Of course, things have changed in the game. The goal changed things. The second half, they've come out much better. I actually thought, I did actually think Frosinone, I thought they'd win this game, or certainly not lose it. But at the moment, that's not looking like the case. So I've come out for a little bit, reduced my liability on Cittadella. It's a difficult one. I'd like this draw to drop down a bit more, then I can probably take that out and use the money to reduce my liability on Cittadella as well. But I just didn't feel comfortable with it sitting at 270. And of course, actually, if it's anyone's game, which I actually think it's Cittadella's, but if it's anyone's game, there's an argument to say that very shortly, actually, I should be making sure that my liabilities or profit, if that had been the case, on these 2 teams is exactly the same, because I'm just trying to hang on. There's a substitution going on, but I'll probably do that soon. As I say, I can come out for a loss across the board of that's my dog, 33 or thereabouts, which actually to me looks better. That looks better to me than the current situation, so I'll have to consider that as well. It's so strange, because in the first half, where I didn't feel there perhaps should have been a goal, in this half so far I'm surprised there hasn't been a goal, and that's just the way obviously football goes sometimes, and I know you're all well aware of that. But yeah, I'll pop back shortly. The match odds market, my position is now this, a little more in keeping with the way I see things. and of course you don't get it right each time, but my Cittadella liability is now down to 96 from 270, but I've got liability on Frosinone, and we've got 15 minutes left in the game. I may well try and clear all these liabilities down towards the end for an attempt at scratch, but that won't be too long. But we'll see. Yeah, it's not really. This is a game that hasn't gone the way I'd hoped, but there's a few things to pick up here for you, hopefully. I'll try and review them at the end of the game. Okay, cheers. I'll back shortly. And of course it's still 1-1. My original underplay, and I thought I was an advanced trader, but you know, just makes fools of us all sometimes. So it's really 3 minutes left. You know, this is pretty cheap. Both teams still going for it. I don't know whether it's Cittadella probably think when they visit Frosinone in a few days that it's they're gonna struggle, and they're probably going for the win. But really, I suppose I could go in there for, you know, 6 odd quid and wipe out this over liability. But the way this half has gone, you know, I'm not banking on a goal, obviously. It's the first half was, I thought there'd be no goals, and there were 2 goals, albeit terrible ones. And this half, I thought there actually probably would be a goal, and it's not worked out that way. The match odds market makes pretty dismal as well, because okay, I went in on one team, then had to change allegiance to another, and just in the end just came out thinking, what's the point of risking a late goal and picking up a chunk of liability on these either of these teams. So it's hasn't been the best, most cheery video, but and in the end we've kind of or I have I suppose just got it wrong, really. You know, it was an undermatch. It appears to have been an undermatch after all, and that's the way it goes sometimes. You've got to use your eyes, play what's on the field, as it were, trade what's on the field, and that's what I've done. So I'm going to stick this. Assuming this result stays this way, I'll be putting this as a loss in our test £100 stakes in the over-under market. And World Cup's coming up, so I'm hoping to get a few videos up, and I'll make them a lot shorter than this one, but there's a fair bit to digest in this one. Now, we had the early goal. It seemed like it had been worth staying in until dreadful, double deflection sort of goal in the 43rd minute. Obviously, if we'd made it to half time, things would have been very different, and we probably might have stayed in this game to the end, because you could almost afford to have to wait in the second half. But that wasn't to be. Then we have the option of putting a couple of quid in here now, and with a minute to go, odd for a scratch on the overs. But I've decided not to do that, because it's just been that kind of half. So it's a loss. It's should have been a profit, so it's a sort of bad turnaround, as it were, because we've lost 52, when in fact, as a straight bet, that would have won. But we're not in the business of straight betting, we're trading, and there'll be other situations where our straight bets would have lost and our trades would have won. So it's just one of those things. So I will shut up now. It's been 19 minutes, and hope you'll have a good evening, and look forward to seeing you again, probably with some class games, hopefully. Okay, cheers.